Hello, I am Yumma Mudra. I am inviting you to come to the YouTube serial of videos called Masterclass Yumma. I will explain to you all about the Danza Duende Network, and slowly we will be more people to expose everything we have been doing and everything we can offer, so that maybe you find what you need to dance your life and to live your dance for the benefit of all beings. Much love. Okay, so take just a little moment to rest. As we are resting, we can just notice how we feel. We're not trying to change that. At the same time, it will transform, because it always transforming all the time, and the mind and body will synchronize automatically as we give ourselves some relaxed presence. It can be clear, and at the same time it invites our system, body, speech and mind, to align together. Of course, the breath helps, because the breath is always happening as an obvious movement. So as you turn your mind towards the sensation of breathing, naturally the alignment is going to change. If it was very wild, it's okay. If it was very sleepy, it's okay. But the transformation is not something you're doing on purpose. It's just a natural, event that happens all the time. So actually just notice your own sensation, notice your own presence. Let go of whatever could be words about that. Even if the words come up, it's okay, just let them breathe. And relax as much as possible on the sensation of earthy contact. So probably earthy contact, very often it's with the bottom, if we are sitting down, or with the feet, or both. That can help the sense of relaxation. But of course the air is full of space, of course, and we breathe air from all the skin, and from the top of the head, and from our nose, our eyes, our ears. This is the masterclass A10. We went through a lot of things which are very important. It could, you could call what we have been doing level 0. That's what we used to call it once upon a time. So whoever was studying a long time ago, this was called level 0. But it's much more extended, because we are doing it with videos, and we can take as much time as we want to do them, to create the videos, but also to listen to them. And so also I've been through what is danza, what is duende. I have been through a little bit of the story of how this happened, and I have been also through the ideas of excluding from the project as a network, and as also a technical set of tools which can always welcome different people in different aspects of training. So it is quite open, but we can exclude from there whatever is not joining together the sense of freedom, the sense of discipline, and the sense of virtue. This is what I have been explaining in the last 8 and 8, 9. Mm-hmm. So I just want to remind you that it's very important to understand that the relationship to freedom is this sense of here and now without limitation. So it is my formless body, my formless speech and mind, which are present because somehow something about myself is always boundless and is not catchable neither by myself, neither by other people, but it is always there. I always have this sense of boundless presence, and this is also knowledgeable through the fact that we dream and the fact of our imagination and also the fact of our ability to rest when it's possible into presence. So this freedom is a sense that opens here and now always, a kind of openness, an openness for adventure, openness for acceptation of everything, and also the sense that even if my body is living certain relative truth and limitations inside of my secret perceptions, there is something that is not limited. And most of art is about expressing that unlimited sense of freedom in the limited space. So this discipline is about how this can be healthy in the sense of knowing these limits, and less in Danza Duende, less than knowing these limits as something intellectual. We are training our body to know the limits, so we don't really need to think about it. It's something that can become very natural. So how does that work? That always works on the sense that everything we do, everything we say, and everything we think is always creating a memory. And so it is also given more importance to a freshness of presence, or more importance to grasping, craving into habits. So this work with habits, changing habits, and giving to our body a new memory on purpose is very, very important. It's really what creates the third value, which is the virtue. So it makes naturally your body able to relate to limitation, to relate to boundless yourself in your heart, and to make both of them be happy together. So happy together. And also, as people are teaching, it's very important that they also always relate to this relativity of what we believe in, of what we think is truth, what we think is not the truth, so that it's much easier to work with your heart, to be spontaneous, and to be able to welcome and to accommodate all the different emotions that comes up, and that can be quite powerful, especially when there's many people. It's even more, yes, because people trigger each other, yeah, and also because there is a value of these people together that becomes like if all people together create more of a camp, of a mandala, that is a little bit transcending, no, what each one already brings. So the person who is working with the situation, either that be for creating events or for creating rituals, for creating a show, for creating a study workshop, it's very important to have this ability, thanks to your inner freedom, to accommodate things that are maybe things that you wouldn't imagine, or things that maybe they could make you even yourself a little bit afraid. But somehow if you are if you are welcoming people in a situation and that you are the one opening the gates, it's very important to cultivate this sense of trust into the fact that whatever happens, whatever comes up, it's okay. You can accommodate it. So that's very much the sense of bringing together the freedom and bringing together, bringing together the knowledge in your body of the limitation of space, and also the limitation of time on this relative aspect of being on Earth. So you understand maybe, yeah? Like if you would imagine the whole cosmos, there's no limits. The time is very relative. What seems quick could be slow. What seems slow could be quick. What is big is small. What is small is big. There is in cosmos not really a sense of north, south, east and west. And the center is everywhere. But on the other hand, when you are embodied as a human being on Earth, the center is usually always yourself. And you have this sense of north, south, east and west. So it is not because they are not in absolute, they are not true. It doesn't mean that they are not happening in the relative realm. So this is very important, because when you dance, you do theater, the relative realm is very important, but it's also very important that doesn't close you into some kind of a limitation that of beliefs and habits that makes that you cannot completely always again transform and be reborn all the time and get into how each day brings a new kind of light, a new kind of inspiration. Okay, so today I am, this was a little bit a resume of what we have been through. And so today I'm interested in bringing up slowly a description of the 3 cycles. But on another hand, I want to propose to specifically people who have been training and studying a new vision on the project. So this is something I want to talk about a little bit today, and start to talk about the 3 cycles. So we used to have, the Danza Duende used to be structured like this. There was a level 0, which was explanation of the vision of the project, and also explanation of the origins of the project. So that would be the origins of how it was created, but also the origin of whoever is given the talk, also explain his own origin of how this person entered in this project and what it comes from for that person also. So it relates, to, of course, to me, but also to all the people that are engaged in the project, and also to that person himself or herself, how she introduced her own experience of a professional in the network. So it's always evolving, of course, because if that person is like a musician, it will be different than if that person is an actress, and it will be different if that person is a dancer. Nevertheless, it always relates to body and movement as dance being life and life being dance, even if that manifests as something else than what usually people call dance. So we had the level 0, we had the level 1, and the level 1 is what became now the cycle of the dragon. And the level 1 was an experience of 7 days. It still is, actually, which invites people to do it again and again several times in order to live that experience from the point of view of being completely jumping in the pool, but also how later you can be helpful in that pool. Or maybe you're not able to, it depends, you know, it really, each person is different. It depends how much a strength of a courage of compassion and love really grows inside of you, and it gives you a lot, much more strength. If that doesn't happen, if it doesn't happen because for some reason it's not yet blossoming in you, so maybe you do this experience of the cycle of the dragon a few times, which we used to call level 1, and maybe it takes you a few, more than 2 or 3 times to really feel that you can accommodate what's happening there, because we work with suffering. So it is an experience in which we invite our healthy presence in the beginning very much. And this healthy presence brings up some clarity that will invite automatically, very easily, also the sense of feeling sensitive, and also of feeling what is it that makes us suffer usually. And then instead of running away from what we feel as being a cause of suffering or something that puzzles us, instead of that, of avoiding that or running away from that, we will work with it plainly as it is. So it's like if you take this material, like if it was something you can take, you know, and with that, we create something that will transform that. So the setup of the whole work is very well done in order to transform this. So it doesn't at all avoid suffering. It does the opposite. It makes suffering invite you to dig a little bit deeper into what is happening, not in an intellectual point of view, but more in the point of view that you can express that. And as you express that, your inner wisdom is invited to give to you clarity about it. So actually you do understand slowly what's happening, not only for yourself, but also about the world, because there's several people. And you start to really understand that what we usually project on people, what we think about people, is quite far from what really is happening. And it really helps you to deepen a little bit your ability to be present for yourself and for others, but also to trust in your basic goodness and the ability we all have as human beings to transform this tendency to get hooked into what creates division, what creates aggression, what makes us crave to this division. So this is very, in the same time, rich, because this is how art is intense. And in the same time, it could become something that is a never-ending sense of unhealthy behavior, you see, which is actually very easy to understand if you take it from the point of view of art, excuse me, because I speak a lot other languages, so when I come back to English, sometimes my mouth is a little bit late, excuse me. So in this workshop, when we get into this suffering and then we transform it, and then we understand that actually it's always underneath appearances, this sense of hurt in the human condition. And so like it's very touching, no? Because on another hand, we also see the beauty and the very deep, amazing sacredness of the human existence on Earth, and how much human actually does have the ability to bring the sacredness really in the sense of respect and of awe. How wow, you know, to feel how much this humbles you somehow, because it's always humbling, and in the same time, you know, like when you see a baby being born, it's humbling. Lots of things in the earth that we could see is humbling, no? The rising sun, the ocean, the huge ocean. And on another hand, we do feel that we have lots of power and strength that could be really put at service in the sense of being our natural function, I would call that, you know, the natural function of human. I call it kindness. In English, it's nice because we cannot do that in other languages. The human kindness. So the kindness is human. So that's very interesting. And it's also another motivation for art. So art in that case, slowly, is not only that I want to express or I need to express or I like to express. It becomes much, much wider than about me. So this is the whole process. So the level 1 opens this, but it opens also the idea that duende is just engagement. So when person really engages into the action and has a proper set to engage, actually the duende very often comes up, even if that person is not experienced. Of course, technique for an artist helps. If somebody knows how to play guitar, it's much easier than if you take a guitar and you don't know how to play it, of course, obviously. On another hand, it is not only the technique, because somebody could have a lot of technique and be like limited by his attachment and his craving to the technique and not able to really fully engage because of some kind of very subtle fear beneath the technique. So to go beyond, you have to somehow kind of destroy that habit of being protected by technique. That happens to a lot of classical artists who have been trained in classical kinds of techniques. At one point, to go beyond, so that the duende opens, you need to let your wildness exist in there. So that makes also the emotion start to be a topic that is very important. So the whole cycle of the dragon has been created from there. So that's the cycle of the dragon. It can relate also to kinds of art that do that. Like it's very often popular art does that, because people do that as their wisdom. The wisdom of social behavior is that through dance, music, art, people go beyond suffering difficult things, and they are able to manifest this incredible power that is within us and that is on earth, to create something that gives this kindness, this human kindness. So what I don't want to have any misunderstanding about this. This does not mean that what this artist is doing looks good or bad. It's not about style, and it's not about, how you say, you believe in that one style is very good and one is not good. It is more about what kind of an energy does it lift into you and into people. Does it lift them? It's a little bit like food, no? If the food seems good to your mouth, but does it make good to your whole system? You know, like you would say, maybe you like very much the McDonald's, but does the McDonald's really respect your health and what's going on in your body? Or maybe some other food or another kind of hamburger would be much more healthy. So there is a sense of health, and that's what I wanted to talk about in the whole project. Then the level 1 was like that, and the level 1 was to be done several times. The level 2 was about the 5 wisdoms, which is now the cycle of the 5, which I'm not going to talk very much about today. It will be another video. And then slowly we will get into practice. Right? And the cycle of the mysteries, which is the last one, is much more about the manifestation by art, and specifically in this case by body and movement and breath, in order to make it happen. In this case, you yourself make it happen, and then how much you can also make it happen in the society. But it has to rely on some kind of a solo process. so that your strength makes you able to accommodate others, but also not to lean upon too much others. You don't need to put your weight, emotional problems you have on others, but on the same time, you can accommodate your own and accommodate that of other people. So it makes that the whole group is much easier. It's much easier to relate to difficult situations together if we are trained into accommodating the ones that we have, even when everything is okay. So that was, at that time, I really wanted to train on that, because I had this intuition that someday things would not be as easy as they were at that time. And actually that's nowadays very obvious. So the level 3 was more about, in that time, and the level 2 was 5 wisdom. The level 3 was about creating yourself one kind of commitment to the training. And then the level 4 was something about how you could yourself make it happen, you know? How is it that you yourself are able to create something that is on that path? The 5 was really about synergy. So it was about understanding each other, working with each other very, very deep. It was really, we're not doing it anymore, but it was really about the network. We could do it again, but nowadays we're not doing it because we really need to be together, to be in the same place, yeah, for a long time, or at least to hang on together. So it could be local. Locally, it could be done, but lately we're not doing it, what I used to call level 5. And the 6 was called the beginner's mind. So the beginner's mind was the end of what we used to call the levels. And we always had in the same time the Dakini workshop. And the Dakini workshop at that time was reserved only for women and was out of, it was out of the process of the Danza Duende, but most of the people who do Danza Duende went and entered and engaged into the Dakini work. With the dance and with work on mandalas, different kind of mandalas, putting breath in the mandalas and creating ritual that would last from 3 to 5 or 6 days. Mm-hmm. And that would really relate with the sense of, as women, bringing up spontaneously archetype. So it was less about coming with the archetype you would decide and more letting come out the one that would come out, which very often is not the one we expected. Okay, so that's the whole structure that used to exist. And nowadays it's different because we wanted to simplify, and because we were not in the same countries and not in the same place, and the world was unstable. And so we created 3 cycles: the cycle of the dragon, the cycle of the 5, and the cycle of the mysteries. Of course, whatever used to exist at that time, and that is interesting still for people, and which we can comment in these videos, can always be welcome in sometimes even in the 3 of the cycles. Like all the work on synergy and on working with each other could somehow be part of any of these 3 cycles. It's just that we did not do that so far. Okay, so the point of view I wanted to show today is that we could think of Danza Duende from the perspective of health, from the perspective of art, and from the perspective of network. So it's again 3, yeah? It's normal, because when you think of health, you always think of your body, your speech. Your speech is not only what we say, it is everything that is in circulation between, like what I breathe, what I sing, what I dream, all these things that happen that are energy, emotion. That is what we call speech. And mind is not only thoughts, it's also thoughts. Thoughts are like some kind of creation of the mind, but it's also the whole unlimited perception that within ourselves is the root, if you like, or the source of wisdom, and that it's not separated from all living beings. Yes, that's mind. That's what we would call mind. So it's very big. And in Danza Duende, if we talk about health from the body, the speech, and the mind, we mean that health is actually starting with the synchronicity of these three. Because if these three are not going along together, even if you do seem to be healthy from the point of view of your body, it doesn't mean you're healthy. And also the opposite, somebody who has a kind of a sickness, if that person, she or he, does have harmony between his or her speech, her or his mind and body, but for some reason something happened that make his or her body has a problem, that doesn't mean that person is not healthy. So, of course, this is a little bit disturbing from the point of view of how people have concept usually. But in the Danza Duende Network, we are not trying to elaborate concept. We are trying to work with what is there, what is really there. And what is really there is always transforming. So it is very important that the healthy body, healthy speech, healthy mind, could be the basics for the art and could be the basics also for the network. Network is mandala, it's society, it's human kindness, you see? So that what's make art very important, because art is like how human beings express the symbolism of how they understand the world. And when human beings express creativity of symbolism, actually, they are making the world change. So artists are very important, even if it seems not. It is probably because people who like to have power from the point of view of material, they don't want artists to be understood with the power that they do have. And actually, everybody is artist somehow. Because when you're a child, you do art automatically. And usually you just stop because people don't let you. Because all children, they start making rhythm, they start singing, they start doing things that are art, drawing, dancing. It is absolutely natural in the human being to do that. You could say animals too. It's just that the human being is very broad into this sense of being able to enter in very different kinds of expression and kinds of, from that expression, creating symbolism. So the healthy art is that the sense of sacredness of the mind, sacredness of the speech, and sacredness of the body enters in art. So what do I mean by that? I mean that everything we do, everything we say, everything we create, everything we are, at each moment is creating memory. And that memory is what happens to us. So that's what the ancients philosophic would call karma. But karma is not abstract. Karma is extremely material because it's the body itself. That is the karma. And it's always operating. So we are always creating memory all the time. But that memory is not something that is stuck. It's alive. But it's just that it can get stuck if we, with our mind, make it stuck. Okay? So this is why dance is very, very useful, because when you're dancing, you're unstuck in it. You know, you're taking it out of the stuckness because that's the principle, no, of moving. So you really need, if you want this healthy synchronicity from your mind, your breath, and your body to be operating, you really need to have the sense of stillness inside of movement. And also in the stillness, there's this sense of being alive. At the same time, stillness is not like dry, sad, death. You understand? So when somebody is meditating, actually that person is not trying to create any void. That person is simply not showing the movement, but the movement is happening. He's just present to movements. And not, that person at that moment is not trying to create any memory, okay? But when the person is in movement, that person can have a mind that is very, very flexible, and so not in the movement getting, how would I say, getting caught into the emotions that come through. So that's why we also call this trance-lucid dance. Trance is you go through, and lucid is that even if you go through different states, you're not losing completely your sense of presence. You can rely on confidence. It's like if you have your horse, you know. I wouldn't like to call it too much control, because control could be a little bit too much a sense of fear. So, but there is in the sense that you are able to keep this horse, it's an image, without being worried and without controlling too much. I already talked about this. So the letting go. I remember we talked about control and letting go, or order and chaos. So this was in the beginning of the videos. So the healthy body, speech, and mind is important. So it's not very complicated, actually. Yeah? It's at one point you are going to study your body, you're going to study movement, you're going to study also the human structure that is like more or less the same for everybody. No? But then your Om, because your Om is not the same, your Om is completely unique. Even if the bones of everybody is more or less the same, your Om is unique. And so you have to study your Om, and that is up to you. So how do you study it? It's because when you go into the different experiences of dance and the different experiences of breath, of singing, of also lots of, we can also use clay to do sculpture, we can use brushes. Now, I always relate directly to dance because I'm the founder of the project, and for me, my expertise is dance, okay? And also because it's interesting to always think that as the body is at the core of what a person does, that makes dance be at the core of different arts. It's not making dance above or behind, it's just it's at the core because it's your body, the core, your corps. In French, corps is body. So your actually it's funny because I think core in English maybe would come from heart in Latin, probably. I should check. So being at the core is at the center, but it's the heart. So there is something in the body that is warm, that's the blood, and it's beating. So this is the mystery, you know? The mystery of life is how come this is there. Nobody has any clue about how that's possible. But it is, it does happen. And it comes from, of course, your ancestors. They gave you this feminine and masculine part, but actually you, with this heart, you are both. You are masculine and feminine. It's just that your body shows one side, but actually you are both. So there is a possibility, a completely possibility of harmony and unity inside the different manifestations of opposites. And I'm talking about this also because I think as we go on, we can understand slowly that the importance is of artists, that maybe we could start to bring up what is needed. You know, I saw a video yesterday. I was invited by Bruno Antunes, a Portuguese friend of mine, in a project he's doing. And so one of his teachers or a person who gives conferences was there. He's called Moreira. I forgot his first name. I think it was Jorge Moreira. And he showed us a movie, and the movie was about some astronaut who went around the moon, and they were the first people to take pictures of the Earth. It's very beautiful. Actually, it made me cry. So it's very moving to look at this movie. And they were all men, actually, and very, very sensitive and very, very special people. And they lived a special situation, which made them talk about poet. And they said they would be like a poet. And I remembered Agostinho da Silva, who is a Portuguese philosopher, who said that human beings should have a condition of life like a poet, poeta solta, which means a free poet. So it means that the poetry inside of each one of us is actually the potential voice of wisdom. That's why lots of these great mystics, what they left is poetry. And the poetry, the songs, you know, is what makes you understand deeply, because it is not only rational, you know. It's taking the sound and the languages to a point where you get free from the concept and you enter into also the rhythm and the harmony. Excuse me, I think I have a little bit of allergy. Maybe. It's a springtime. So the poetry. So to come back to art, how art is so important. And we artists, if we train in this sense, if we give opportunity to people to train in this sense, we are not telling you that this is sacred feminine or sacred masculine. We're not going in there. Danza Duende is not going in there. Sometimes some of us do that, but you know, it's not about that, okay? It's just because some of us do that, yeah? But it's not about that. It is really about the human kindness, both masculine, feminine, and beyond, yes? This is what Danza Duende is about. And how art is the expressiveness of the wisdom through each one of us. And it does relate with poetry. So poetry is dance, poetry is music, poetry is a word to say that whatever we are offering to the world goes beyond concept. It opens us to the paradox of symbolism. So it's really important, because if we come to the third one, which is network, so you remember the body, health, then this healthy body from body, speech and mind, art. The art gets this healthy body, speech and mind through these artists. Why healthy? In the sense of how this art, it's not about style, it's not about good or bad, it's about how this art brings something healthy to people, to the society, exactly as food can, or as the air, as the water, you know. When you drink water and the water is good, the water is not poisoned, you know. So art is also, needs to be also good. That's it. And how do you know it's good? It's because you know yourself. So the third one is network. The network is not only that we work together, and we have to work together with things that are not always pleasant. And that's what makes wisdom important, because wisdom is not that everything is fine and everybody's so nice, because it never happens. It's never going to happen. When you go in religious groups or in wisdom groups, usually people, they are eager for wisdom. They're eager for something incredibly beautiful and wonderful, and maybe they even would like to give it to everybody. And then you don't understand why they became violent, they became aggressive, they became judgmental. It's not because this group is bad. It's just because human being is like that. Wherever you go, whatever the color of the people are, whatever the culture is, they are like that always. It's the corruption of how we lose the essence of our motivation. We thought our motivation was this, and then suddenly we're completely doing something else because we lost track of the source of the motivation. Where does that action What kind of memory am I doing here? Yeah, I just lost it. I forgot. Or maybe sometimes I didn't forget. I just think I'm not able to. I think I have to dedicate all of my life, engage all of my life for material gain, or I have to engage all of my life to be famous or to be admired or to be loved, or I have to engage all my energy to go convince. And that will maybe drive me far away from, I wanted to convince because I had this very lovely intention, but at one point I just lose my mind, you know, and people, we all do that. And so sometimes we point out that this is a monster, this is this, but we forget that that's ourselves. If in the world, this is something I really understood at one point, because in my case, personally, I really had a hard time accepting, I still have a hard time accepting, you know, all the different horrible things that human beings does. I even have a hard time accepting that on Earth, it's so difficult, no, for the animals, and it's very difficult, things that happen. But at one point, I had to really acknowledge and accept that if I am here, it's because I have to do with this. It's me. Because it's just like that. You cannot appear in a form, in a perception, in a mind, in a world that doesn't have to do with you. Because we have to really understand that what we perceive is related to who we are. We could be completely different beings, and maybe the cosmos is different, maybe Earth is different, maybe everything that we human beings believe in is not true. It's only true for us. Because that's the way we see, we hear, but maybe it's not. So we have to relax about the fact that there is a mystery, that this mystery does have infinite possibilities of going beyond our usual beliefs. And that's what artists do. So maybe artists can really, really make the difference in a world that is becoming very polarized. Yes? Very polarized between this is right, this is wrong, this one is right, this one is wrong, and push and pull and push and pull. And then it becomes extremely dangerous because we are the one creating tools with material technology that are extremely powerful, and that we don't, most of us, create our inner qualities to deal with this, like dealing with this machine that is now I'm talking to, or dealing with the network of internet, but then dealing also with countries, with what is going on in the world. Of course, at one point, if you don't get into, in this case, it's not what I want to do, right? Get into theory about what should be done or not should be done. This is not what I want to do. I think we can really trust that if we rely into our true motivation, into our true nature, if we can let this kind of wisdom come up, learn a little bit, to be a little bit patient and to be a little bit humble, in the same time feel the strength. If we can get this true nature of ours, be the richness, much more than always looking for richness from out. If we're able to do that, to live that, then the memory, the karma we are creating is automatically going to be much different from what is happening nowadays. So this is a little bit my way of answering to the challenges. So I'm not answering in the sense of giving opinions about politics or giving my own vision of how things I think or I believe should be or should not be. I'm more sharing with you and with, of course, the team that did work on this for a long time, the possibility we have to give really, give to the world situations in which the human wisdom is welcome. And it is not something that belongs to a way of thinking. It doesn't belong to a religion, doesn't belong to a specific culture. All of them are okay, as long as they don't come and start telling you it has to be like this. You understand? This is why there is something abstract about the Danza Duende Network, in the sense that we really have to let it stay free. This is why freedom is the first. But in the same time, it has to have a structure, because it has to be healthy. And in the same time, the virtue is that inside of that structure, which could be like simply being in a place and creating a situation in that place with a kind of a color or a kind of, we're going to work on something specific, then you let it be, and all people of all kind of beliefs and all kind of cultural backgrounds and all kind of languages, even experiences, they can welcome the human goodness, kindness, to bring up something that we cannot schedule. We cannot schedule it, and that's Duende. But it's not the Duende only of this artist that is so amazing and so powerful. It's the Duende of network. Okay, so I think this is okay for today. Thank you very much. And may we all be healthy, full of love and wisdom, and may we always dance, and may we always feel the sacredness of all beings.